Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho.
Reading, I'm Edling Gao.
Tonight's big stories is artificial intelligence replacing human jobs. One report found that 14% of the Philippine workforce is at direct risk of being displaced by this technology.
A series of tremors in an Ilocos Sur town had PHIVOLCS sounding the alarm over a possible magnitude 8.4 earthquake, much bigger than the so-called big one that has a 7.2 quake scenario.
And incumbent party lists and those endorsed by congressmen are leading the 2025 race, at least according to a recently commissioned SWS survey. Our top story for tonight, about 4 out of 10 jobs in the Philippines are, quote, highly exposed to artificial intelligence, which could be both good or bad for the workforce. In a report released on December 20, the International Monetary Fund notes that 36% of jobs here has high AI component, especially those in the service-based sector. Most work is complementary with technology, which means AI can support rather than replace tasks performed by humans.
On the flip side, 14% of local jobs can be disrupted, meaning AI can replace this segment of the workforce and take over human tasks. With this, the IMF is encouraging government to beef up digital education and infrastructure to strengthen social safety nets. And let's bring in an expert. We have Dominic Vincent Ligot, Technology and AI Head of the IT and BPM Association of the Philippines. Welcome to the Big Story, Doc, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Doc, Doc is your name or Doc is your title?
Call me Doc. That's my name.
That's your name, okay. Well, do you agree with the numbers? So this is an IMF report, a country report for 2024. Do you agree with the numbers?
Yeah, if you look at historically, the IMF has not, has been saying this for some time. As early as January this year, they mentioned the same statistics. But I think the tone has changed a bit. We're now at the end of 2024. It's almost 2 years since ChatGPT came out. There's a bit more urgency coming from the IMF. So certainly we agree in IBPAP that we need to have a look at what AI can do. And the BPO sector is actually on top of this trend.
More urgency. So do you think the government has felt this urgency, or it has not yet felt this urgency?
Well, I can't speak for government, but certainly
From what you see?
Yeah, we have to think that we don't exist in a vacuum. In other words, we can take our time looking at AI and adopting it, but other countries are also looking at it. I think it was just this week or 2 weeks ago when South Korea passed their AI law. And countries are now, I think going into 2025, regulating AI and looking at AI for innovation will be top of the agenda.
Let's break down the numbers. 36% of jobs highly exposed to AI, but only 14% of the total workforce are at risk of being replaced. So, ibig sabihin, meron tayong 12% highly complementary jobs. How does that translate on the ground?
Well, think about how AI is being used now. Before ChatGPT, AI was kind of a niche technology. You only use it for research. But nowadays, it's pervasive. I think LinkedIn was the one who said 86% of Filipinos, on LinkedIn at least, are using some form of AI, and that's ahead of the global average of 75%. So adoption is really quite high. Now, I think where IMF is coming from, interestingly, AI looks at white-collar kind of work now. No? Before, we kind of expected it to go after the blue-collar type of occupation, physical labor.
Like yung mga factory jobs.
Factory jobs.
Mga
But by the way,
robotics na.
that will come soon. Pero nauna yung white-collar work. And the BPO sector is obviously in that category.
In the BPO industry, which jobs are being replaced by AI?
Well, we have to be, I think, more circumspect. When you say replaceable, doesn't mean they're really being replaced. I think IBPAP was, to my knowledge, the first industry association that has put out numbers in terms of the impact. I think Jack Madrid a couple of months ago said 8% of our members have already reported job losses. But then 13% on the flip side have reported job gains. So it's not a one-track thing. There are new jobs getting created, new jobs getting automated. So I think that's also where IMF is coming from. They kind of hedge, no? They say replaceable or augmentable. So I think the message is really for the government. If you do something, you can benefit from it. But if you don't, then there's potential risks to the
Well,
labor
we do
force.
know that the IT BPM industry is evolving. As you mentioned, meron tayong mga virtual assistants now. We deal with chatbots even when we shop online, right?
Yeah.
That's a common experience by the consumer. But also, Jack Madrid was saying that there needs to be other specialties developed by the IT BPM industry where that can come in to support the technologies at hand. So what kinds of jobs are you seeing now?
Yeah, so let's split it. No, traditionally, when you said AI, you say AI. Well, we kind of infer like these are software engineers, AI engineers, data scientists, because they're the guys who build the AI or tweak it. Certainly, we need more of those. But the vast opportunity, at least 70% of the population in BPOs are users of AI. So this can be your typical call center agents, back office work. But instead of doing everything manually, like traditionally, they're now augmented
What do you mean by
by
users
AI.
of AI? Like, alam natin kasi ChatGPT.
Correct.
But how do they use AI?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a use case that's very popular in BPOs. It's called Agent Assist. So imagine you're a call center agent, you get a call. AI is already listening into your call and already suggesting based on what the customer is saying, customer probably needs this, this, this. So something that might have taken 30 minutes to resolve is now done in 5 minutes. So the vast majority of the implementations of AI are kind of in
So
that
the
area.
more complicated communication will be now directed to a human being.
I think humans will still be there, but it's more about efficiency. So maybe let's say you do 100 calls a day. Now you can do 500 calls a day because of the efficiencies of AI.
Can AI overrule the human and say, for example, oh, no, that's not the right answer?
I think right now the majority is AI suggesting, but there is a concept, for example, another term that's been become popular is AI ethics now, because everyone's implementing AI. There's a concept called human in the loop. You always want to keep humans on top of AI in case it makes a mistake. You can override it rather than the other way around.
Doc, I'm looking at the table made by IMF. Parang tinatamaan talaga dito is clerical support. It's got the biggest chunk of, and this is the 14% that 1 out of every 7 jobs might be lost to AI. Clerical support, I don't know exactly how they define clerical support. I suppose what, admin?
Back office work.
Back office work.
I think also includes contact center workers. You know, everything is like clerical support. I think the bottom line here is there's a conventional wisdom that less developed countries are more into physical labor, so they're not as affected by AI. But the Philippines is kind of an interesting case because we're a service industry.
Yeah.
We have the second largest IT BPM sector in the world, just second to India. So certainly it's in our best interest to look at how AI will affect us.
Coming in second, I think, is services and sales. Also a big chunk of it affected by AI. And technicians.
Oh, paano yung
surprisingly.
technicians?
Well, there are many kinds of technicians. I think majority here will be anyone operating a computer, so software developers, data analysts. Again, replaceable doesn't mean replaced. You know, the vast majority is augmenting, getting more productivity out of people. I think the other thing we need to also look at is, syempre, these are jobs being sent from the U.S. primarily. You know, 70% of our sector is based on North America. So a lot of it also depends on how the U.S. will send more work. And traditionally, it's been low-level, maybe mid-level jobs. Americans don't want to do that. Send it here. Now it will be a mix, no? Low-level, mid-level, plus AI jobs can potentially be sent to the Philippines.
How about the sales part? I mean, how do we imagine that?
I think sales is generally still going to be human-driven. Maybe the fulfillment of the sale. Because one thing that, because talking to a lot of AI vendors, now there's a lot operating in the BPO sector now. I think one clamor pa rin of people taking calls is you want to hear a human voice on the other side of the line. Even if sometimes that human voice is actually AI na. But you crave that, maybe that human connection. That's why in the BPO sector, as early as 2023, you know, the sector has been very proactive. What are those use cases where we can get AI to be implemented? Contrary to kind of the conventional wisdom that, you know, call centers are going to get wiped out. The trend is actually anything but. You know, the industry continues to grow. I think on average we were growing at about 8%. Now it's going to be closer to 7%, despite all of these.
So you mean to
churn-outs.
say that the direction is not streamlining the workforce?
No, it's both. But the thing is, there's a stat we always look at. Out of the total outsourceable jobs, like everything, only about 30% has been outsourced. And that includes India. So there's still a huge demand for these services. I think our challenge now is, do we have the capacity to absorb that work? And with AI, it actually improves capacity. So I think that's the other, it's counterintuitive. Just because you can use AI to automate work doesn't mean you will lessen your headcount. It just means you can grow faster, diba,
The
services-wise.
menial tasks you
But
delegate to
if
the
you do it
AI.
right,
Di lang yun. It's hybrid because AI doesn't just do menial stuff. It also helps you think, brainstorm, write content. So nagiging ano siya. I think our term is AI augmentation rather than AI automation.
But does this mean that there will be a preference for a younger, more technological, adaptive workforce?
That's an excellent point. So of course, there's no free lunch. For this thing to really play out, we need a huge effort to upskill everyone. And it's not just the technical upskilling. Certainly, we need the software developers, AI engineers. But the users of AI also need to know how to operate with AI. You're gonna have to change your workflow to include AI in it. There's a common skill now that's becoming popular called prompting or prompt engineering. This is you just prompting AI to get an output. That's not being taught in schools yet, but
you have
in
to ask the
BPOs.
right questions to get the right answer.
Correct. Not just the right questions in the right way.
The right way.
So
Naalala mo
Otherwise,
yung-
you get the wrong
naalala
answer.
mo yung,
You get sidetracked.
When we were kind of experimenting with the Facebook Messenger AI. We're trying to get images.
Create images.
Oh,
yeah.
but
Did you get interesting images?
yeah, it was
Yeah, but
quite.
it's-
but
it's
you
a-
have to
it's
know how
an
to
art
prompt
of
it
ano,
exactly.
prompting.
Correct. And that actually raises, I talked about ethics earlier. Like, these are general purpose tools. You can ask it to write anything, create any image. So there's now an added challenge. How do you keep them ethical? You know, don't violate copyright, don't violate privacy, don't do fake news in the case of journalists. I think that's a new problem that didn't exist before.
Well, it seems to be a little bit more controlled, right? We were trying to. I mean, tinitingnan namin, ini-explore namin yung limits and bounds of that in terms of like sensitive issues like race, for example, or gender. It was quite sensitive.
Yeah, the guardrails are there. Actually, that's one thing that's also counterintuitive. Of all the industries, to my knowledge, it's the BPO sector that has a wealth of data, all these calls, all these transactions that can be used to keep AI like safe and guardrailed. And I think that's something worth emulating for other industries if they want to start implementing AI. You need good data first, so your your AI will also perform well.
Doc, for the longest time, the older generation,
Certain
Ba't
cut-off.
natawa kayo dun? Di ba? We used to brag about the Philippines' advantage with language,
Yes.
proficiency of English and all that. Yun ang selling point natin parati, especially in this region. And now comes AI, which basically, at least one form, the bigger form of it is large language modeling.
Correct.
Which means basically that it collates and analyzes huge language databases in order to answer questions or to create solutions. So now that you have an LLM, which is a language expert, have we lost that advantage?
Well, that's a threat, and I think even IMF has acknowledged that in their report. Not so much that we lose the volume of work that we get, but then you have India number 1, Philippines number 2, and everyone's like a distant number 3. But to give you an idea, Vietnam is proving to be an excellent place to outsource software developers, except they don't speak English. So there could be a potential later on for translation AI to help with that. But malayo pa yon. I think the challenge now is we're doing well as an industry. I'm talking BPOs. How do we maintain that? Be defensive about our position, and then expand. We still have a massive edge in terms of English language.
Well, Jack Madrid was talking about having a finishing school, catered to what the demands are by the IT BPM industry. Kumbaga, parang every client has a specific set of demands for its product. Is that in the works?
Yes, we recently signed a partnership with TESDA and DepEd. The idea is, there's a phenomena, education experts are looking at this called labor skills mismatch. So what the industry wants to hire isn't exactly what schools are producing. And that's the finishing part. A lot of it is communication driven. A ratio that we're watching is how many people get declined, those who apply. Last time we checked, it was in the area of 80 to 85%. People applying to BPOs get
Why?
rejected.
Why?
Primarily communication. They're not they don't speak fluent enough English, but they have the technical skills.
In terms of the interview portion
Correct,
of the
correct.
application
And,
process.
but the paradox there is, despite that 15%, we have the second largest industry in the world over the past few years. So imagine if we're able to widen that margin, we could double that labor pool in no time. So a lot of it is really, ironically, we're good in English, but then we're also very perfectionist when we assess applications. And again, that's another opportunity for AI. Like for example, if you're manning a chat interface for a BPO, you may not really need to speak good English, but combined with a chatbot, you can respond to customers' queries fast and efficiently. I think that can make a massive difference in terms of the inflow of new transactions you can do.
But I think so far we're talking about the ideal. I mean, if you have all these good workers with good English and good skills, what about in very practical terms? Kasi 14% daw, sabi ng IMF, that's 1 out of every 7 jobs, low complementarity, meaning in danger of getting lost in total of the Philippine workforce.
I think the way we see it, based on our own internal data, so we said 8% jobs lost, 13% jobs gained. But then there's this 50% these are companies who have admitted the jobs are changing, and we need massive upskilling. I think
upskilling.
that's the controllable part. Because the 8 and the 13, that's really just dependent on supply and demand from abroad. And I think that's why we really need to work together with government, private sector. In many ways, it's already happening. Like manpower agencies, they play a big role in BPOs. They're the ones who do the finishing, and then they hire en masse. There's got to be a way of institutionalizing that.
Which industries do you see huge opportunities
Well,
for those looking for new jobs?
Here's an interesting tidbit. Do you know that there's a nursing shortage in the Philippines? And it's because BPOs are
mababa.
hiring them.
Yeah.
Medical BPOs. So they do care plans, they do telemedical consults. And here's the cool,
Plus, we don't pay nurses enough.
yeah, and here's the cool life hack. Most of them would have probably boarded a plane to go abroad. Na.
Yeah.
Instead, they get to stay here. They're paid more than the average nursing job. And every year they spend in that job counts as nursing experience.
Really?
So
Even
one
if
life
it's-
hack yun.
But even if it's not hands-on.
Well, because they're dealing with clients anyway, they're dealing with patients. There's another industry. I actually studied accounting, never practiced. So there's also an accounting shortage. Can you believe it? Because financial BPOs are like sucking them out of the system.
Is there a lawyer shortage as well? Or?
Well, there are some emerging AI companies looking at the legal
Really?
profession, but that's an interesting trend. Like no one actually ever
Maganda
thinks.
yun, no?
Okay,
Kung
sige,
meron
tako.
kang consult na AI na ano, no? Taga contact center.
Is there a politician
Political AI?
shortage?
Yeah, maybe we'll need to have this conversation in a couple of years to think about it. But think about it. There was a recent World Talent Report that usually, as usual, puts us at the very bottom. No? And of course, everyone would love to chime in. Our education is all over the place. We need to improve. But I gotta wonder, how can our talent be the least competitive when our OFWs are highly sought after, when we have the second highest, biggest BPO sector? So I feel that the Philippines needs to, amp its, PR because I heard an economist say we export people and we import everything else. So if we agree that labor is our best export, OFW and BPO combined, I think it behooves us to make sure that our export is of highest quality.
But it also, sir, depends on what kind of labor we export, and you're looking at a huge range of
Certainly.
jobs
Certainly.
that go abroad. But going back to the recommendations ng IMF is for government to invest in digital infrastructure and education to strengthen the social safety net. Are we?
Well, our Congress is about to end. There's an election coming up. So we were monitoring the scene on AI bills. I think there were no less than 10. Unfortunately, all of them are going to go, to the archive.
Yeah,
They
but
need to get refiled.
Re-election.
But part of some of those bills were looking at social safety nets, because the idea here is you want to transform your labor from like non-AI to AI augmented labor. So who's going to pay for that interim period that people are upskilling, and getting retrained? I think that's where the thinking is. As opposed to before, I think there were moves to, I think one of my interviews here was about that law. Like somebody proposed a ban Now, you can't fire people because of automation. It's going to be hard to enforce.
Yeah,
But
I
at least
imagine.
the later laws, we're already looking at social safety nets. On the infrastructure, certainly you need the usual internet connectivity. Can't access AI without the internet. But I think one term that hasn't entered the mainstream yet, but we're going to be popular, is called sovereign AI. And that's AI developed locally for local use. I think Vietnam and Thailand are doing that. And the reason is very straightforward. All of this AI stuff, we're all dependent on technology in, let's say, California, in Meta. It's all based in California. What if one day ChatGPT were to go down? You don't want to be dependent on one platform. So sovereign AI obviously is a good dream, but it implies that we have data centers, we have connectivity, we have talent, and that's going to be
It's
a
like
more
a Google that's based in the Philippines.
certainly, yeah. And we have the talent. You know, we have people in DOST, we have a center for AI research, but we need to invest in like the hard infra. You know, these things. If you want to develop your own foundation model, they call it, your own ChatGPT, your own large language model, it's going to take a lot of infra to do it.
Well, I guess cybersecurity also, if you have lots of data.
Yeah, I mean, that's historically not something the Philippines as a country has been quite popular at enforcing. However, in the BPO industry, our cyber experts are some of the best in the world. We even have cyber companies. There was a new member of IBPAP. They're a major cyber employer in the UK. And they're now outsourcing work here. So it's a testament that there is talent out there, but you have to build the infra to maximize that talent,
The I Love You virus was created by a Filipino.
among many other viruses.
Many other viruses.
Do you see this creeping in all industries? I mean, AI, because you already talked about a shortage in nurses, a shortage in accountants. I mean, in a major way in different industries. And what would be your advice for those lost in all of this development?
Well, there's two ways to appreciate it. On an individual level, if you're not using AI yet, you should be using it. I mean, if LinkedIn stats are to be, believed, most people are using it already. They're using it for anything, Most of it use the AI like you would use Google. Just ask questions, you get the answer. But I think the big message is really enterprise adoption, companies, and that requires some more thought. You want to look at privacy, security, cybersecurity, and integration with old systems. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. If you're a company at least 10 years old, most likely your systems are out of date. Some companies don't even have any, low-level IT system. And you need data to maximize AI. So I think these are things that need to be
What would be
cleansed
the
first.
best success metric of AI adoption? Is it efficiency, speed?
The ROI.
Ano metric nyo?
Well, I think the first is productivity. If it used to take you 20 people to do something, it takes you 10 na lang. Doesn't mean you're going to cut your workforce in half. It just means you've doubled your capacity. The next is, especially for creative fields, I'll include journalism in that sector. AI can be a massive tool to enhance creativity. But then the risk is copyright.
Yeah.
If we have to close that loop, the people start using AI for for creativity.
Medyo nahihirapan na raw mga guro na mag-check ng mga paper kasi yung iba daw masyadong matalino yung mga essay
Biglang
nila.
tumatalino ka mo.
Oo.
Well, in education, I have to admit, they're in a tight spot because all our education system, sorry to say it, hasn't really changed much since the early 20th century. We're using a lot of outdated methods. So there has to be a serious overhaul of our curricula. And that's part of the reason IBPAP has partnered with DepEd and TESDA. In India, for example, there's an institution called the IIT, the Indian Institutes of Technology. This is something worth emulating. This is a system that was done in the 90s. And the idea there was industry will, in a way, dictate to schools. Ito yung skills na kailangan namin. And schools, please supply. So, di ba, I mentioned earlier, we reject 85% of those who apply. In India, they accept 60%. Totally the opposite.
Wow.
But there's some hope. Just this year, primarily by IT BPM players, we helped launch the Philippine Skills Framework. It's this document that basically came from the industry, mostly BPOs, and we're saying these are the skills that our people need. Please, schools, supply them. Of course, the other half now needs to happen once you've given them the template. We now need to work aggressively with the schools to supply the skills.
I'm tempted to ask one more question, but I'm being told that hindi na pwede more time. Hindi na pwede talaga. Sige. Sige. Doc, I'm afraid.
There's another episode.
Yeah, we should have you again. We should have you again before the year ends. But maraming salamat, Doc Ligot of the IT and BPM Association of the Philippines. Talagang Doc Ligot, sir?
Yes.
Ilang
Not to be
araw
confused with Dr. Ligot. That's my brother.
Ilang araw nilang matatapos na yung taon niya. Sa Monday.
But I also want to ask about education kasi the problems of teachers with AI. But anyway, sige, we'll have that for another discussion.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Big Story tonight. Well, up next, a sequence of earthquakes off the coast of Ilocos Sur early this week have raised concerns of a possible high-magnitude quake. We will discuss this with Vivos in just a bit. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. A sequence of earthquakes off the coast of Ilocos Sur early this week has raised concerns of a possible high-magnitude quake. The earthquakes have been attributed to movements along the Manila Trench, an ocean trench located west of the Philippines. According to state seismologists, a worst-case scenario in the Manila Trench could result in a magnitude 8.4 quake, which could trigger tsunamis as high as 14.7 meters or more than 48 feet. Vivos, however, emphasized that earthquakes and tsunamis cannot be precisely predicted, but the agency urges the public to remain vigilant. Well, joining us tonight is Vivos Director Teresito Katoto Bacolcol. Magandang gabi po sa inyo. Welcome back to The Big Story.
Good evening, sir. Magandang gabi, sir. Dr. Bacolcol, can you hear us?
Katoto? Katoto, mukhang nakamute po kayo.
Okay, now let's bring him back in a few minutes. Mukhang naputo lang. Naputo yung linya. But anyway, kasi there was a mild panic among editors and I suppose producers on Tuesday when the Vbox released a scenario. Although it's possible scenario lang. what's a possible scenario of a tsunami in case of an 8.4 magnitude quake?
Actually, dire-research ko kanina kasi kung yung related ba ito sa the big one. No? So, yung sa Manila
No,
Trench.
the big one naman is
oo,
ano eh.
Yun yung nasa
it's on the
west.
trench,
Ito yung
yeah.
Pilipinas, nandito siya. Manila Trench, this is the Philippine Trench. And the big one is the West Valley
Yeah,
fault
it
line.
cuts
pababa.
down Luzon.
But I wanted to ask Katoto how that could possibly
I think we have him already.
trigger the big one. Katoto, nandiyan po ba kayo?
Yes, I'm here, ma'am.
There
And,
you
sir.
go. All right. So we received this alert back in December 17, I believe, earthquakes happening at the Manila Trench. What are our updates on that? Gaano karaming earthquake po ang natatrack po natin sa ngayon?
Okay, so from December 17 up to now, we were able to record 192 earthquakes. The peak was on December 19. We recorded 70 earthquakes. But right now, nag-dwindle na po yung number niya. And in fact, for the past 24 hours, dalawang earthquakes na lamang po yung naitala natin. So basically, nag-dissipate na yung sequence of earthquakes natin in Manila Trench in the Ilocos Sur part.
Pero Katoto, when you say 160 earthquakes and so on down the line, that's against what is the normal number of earthquakes recorded by PHIVOLCS? Para meron natin baseline ba?
Okay, so every day we record at least 30 earthquakes.
Okay.
And karamihan dito are not felt. One or two earthquakes are felt by individuals. But again, this one, we have this series of earthquakes. And in a day, we recorded 70 earthquakes, but that was
Double.
December 19. Yes, so masyadong marami. But their frequency has decreased over the past several days. After December 19, nag-dwindle na po yung numbers niya. In fact, last December 2020, 14 na lamang. December 21, we recorded 10. Same thing on December 22, 10. Then 23, dalawa. 24, we also recorded 2. And then basically from from December 25 until yesterday, we recorded only 4 earthquakes.
So we're seeing some video right now on television, and I suppose those are clips taken during the earthquake. Sir, so what you're saying basically, tell me if I'm right, is that less than a week ago, there was an increase in the number of earthquakes recorded by PHIVOLCS, and that was reason for concern, although medyo nag-dissipate na yung concern as of now.
Yes, that's right. But again, the possibility is always there that
Yes, sir.
Another earthquake, because earthquakes are random events. They cannot be predicted. And not just in Ilocos Sur, but also in other parts of the country.
Pero ano po
We
yung
have several trenches na pwedeng mag-generate ng earthquakes.
ano po yung pattern leading up to a tsunami? Ano po ba yan? Slight increase every day. So pag bumaba siya, kumbaga makakahinga na kami o bigla na lang pwede siyang umakyat in one day, the number of earthquakes.
O pwede from zero, bigla
Wala
na
kasing
may
pattern
bigla
yan,
ba?
ma'am. In fact, we have several earthquake swarms before, and eventually nag-dissipate naman. For example, we have several earthquake swarms on the southern end of the Manila Trench. Dito sa may Mindoro area, we also had several earthquake swarms in Batanes, and eventually, after a few days, nag-dissipate. So again, but again, as I mentioned, earthquakes are random events. Sometimes kahit walang earthquake swarms, bigla na lang mag-move yung faults natin. And if the earthquake is strong enough, it may generate tsunamis. Especially if it's shallow and large magnitude earthquake. When we say large magnitude earthquake, it could be earthquake more than 7 in magnitude. And then if it's very shallow, could generate an earthquake. And if it happens offshore.
Yes, sir. Let's just emphasize that, no? So there is no way to really predict an earthquake. Parang, pero sir, but also let me throw in something. I remember reading before that there was an argument that if you have, several earthquakes, maybe a swarm, as you would call it, perhaps this could also help dissipate the pressure building up between, for example, two plates. That's that could also prevent, or if at all, lessen the magnitude of an earthquake coming in. because nga na-dissipate yung
Yeah,
pressure?
yes, that's right po. Kasi if a fault constantly releases energy,
Yes, sir.
hindi na po siya makapag-ipon ng lakas. Same thing with the person, like a person kapag hindi yan nagsasalita,
Nagka-high blood
kapag
siya.
nagalit yan, it would be a total mayhem. So, mas maganda na yung salita ng salita, and then you just say, oh, hanggang salita
ilabas
lang
mo lang
naman
yung
yan.
galit
Kasi
mo, parang
nalalabas
ganun.
na yung pent-up emotions niya.
Is there a way that this could trigger the big one? I mean, we do know that the Manila Trench is far from the West Valley Fault, pero matatamaan kaya yung kasakasakaling magkaroon ng malakas na earthquake dito?
Ano, magkaiba naman yung the big one and the Manila Trench. The big
Okay.
one, well, basically the big one was coined to refer to the magnitude 7.2 earthquake that will be generated by the West Valley Fault. But there are bigger ones in the other parts of the country. But if you're talking about the big one along the West Valley Fault, no, earthquakes sa Manila Trench won't be able to trigger the big one because magkaiba pong earthquake generators yung dalawa.
Doc, let me take a different tack with my question kanina. I was referring kanina to the release of energy through more frequent earthquakes. Is it possible, again, this is possibilities, is it possible na mas nakakatakot yung walang activity ang quakes dahil maaaring nagbi-build up ang pressure versus yung maraming maliliit na quakes? Is that possible? Is that feasible, logical?
Yes, but the thing is, there's also what we term foreshocks. These are the earthquakes that would happen before the main shock.
Yeah.
So if you have smaller earthquakes and then you have a bigger earthquake afterwards, then you would say that, kaya pala nagkaroon tayo ng maliliit na lindol, it's because that's the foreshock of a bigger earthquake. But the thing is, the main shock, this foreshock main shock sequence is always on the hindsight. You'll only learn, you'll only know that main shock na pala yun right after it happened. Hindi mo masasabi na we have these several earthquakes now. This is probably the foreshock. This will be the foreshock of a bigger event.
Parang
No,
ano pala?
you can only say na main shock na pala yun after it happened.
Parang pag-ibig pala, pwedeng anytime.
Saan magaling yun?
Badly put, badly put. Okay, we do know that there are 6 regions on alert. That's Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and NCR. What would be your advice for those heading up those regions? Kung, for example, ako pupunta ako Zambales over the weekend, iiwas ba kami dapat? Or okay na, we can
chill
breathe a
lang.
little bit. How do we prepare for this?
Okay, you have to know the natural signs of an impending local tsunami. Kasi when we say local tsunami, we have no more time to warn the people. It would only take minutes before the tsunami waves will arrive. So first sign that you have to know is if there's a strong shaking, na halos hindi ka na makatayo, and there is a roaring sound coming from the sea, and there is a sudden drop of sea level, kahit isa man lang dito sa tatlo, you will be able to observe, then you have to move to a higher place. That is kung nasa beach po kayo or nasa coastal community.
Well, of course, we can't monitor that all on our own. Where do we look? Which website or which information agency can we tune into to keep track of this?
Well, again, just have to follow us sa FIVOX, yung website namin, and kung ano may information na inilalabas namin doon, lahat naman ng earthquakes that's happening right now ay nilalagay namin sa website namin or sa Facebook account.
Okay,
All
maraming
right,
salamat.
It's a good reminder because it is still the holiday season. People are still in the provinces and taking trips here and there. But in the meantime, it is good to know that the earthquakes have dissipated, but we still remain on alert. Thank you for joining us on The Big Story tonight. We have from FIVOX, Katoto Bakulkol. Well, up next, if elections were held today, only 8 party-less groups are seen to secure at least 1 seat in Congress. Now, that's according to the latest SWS survey. The details when The Big Story returns. Keep it here.
You are still watching The Big Story here on One News. Have you decided on which party list group to vote for? According to the latest SWS survey on Friday, only 8 of 156 party list groups received more than 2% of the votes among the respondents to the SWS survey conducted from December 12 to December 18. Why is 2% important? Under the party list law, groups that get at least 2% of votes cast are guaranteed at least one seat. Topping the survey is the pagtibayin at palaguin ang pangkabuhayang Pilipino or the four-piece party list after getting 13.51% of the votes among respondents. This means the four-piece party list would be entitled to at least 3 seats, or no, a maximum of 3 seats if the elections were held this month. The four-piece party list currently occupies 2 seats in the 19th Congress. ACT-CIS ranked second, Senior Citizens third, and Duterte Youth fourth. These 3 party list groups with at least 4% votes can secure 2 seats if the elections were held this month. Rounding up the top 8 are party list groups Ako Bicol, Tingog Party List, TGP, and Uswag Ilonggo, which would secure a seat if elections were held this month. Now, all is not lost for the remaining party list aspirants, as under the law, party list congressmen shall constitute 20% of the total number of members of the House of Representatives. So the remaining unoccupied seats will be allocated to other party list groups according to their ranking in the elections, and each group would have only 1 representative. The SWS face-to-face poll had 2,097 registered voters as respondents nationwide. It was commissioned by political think tank StatBase. And days before the new year, the Department of Health has already recorded 101 fireworks-related injuries in the country. Most of the patients were in Metro Manila. Regions 3, 2, 6, Ilocos Region, and Central Visayas also recorded high cases. 8 out of every 10 cases were said to be caused by illegal fireworks such as boga. Also, top causes of fireworks-related injuries are 5-star, piccolo, and quitis. Most injuries were on the eyes, head, legs, and the arms, while 5% of all the cases had to be amputated.
Another good reminder for us this coming New Year. Kanina, may nagpaputok na malapit doon sa labas ng unit namin. Nagugulat kami, bakit may mga ingay, no? Sabi namin, nagte-testing kaya to ng fireworks. But seeing that, I guess the celebrations have started very early.
Buti nga ngayon, pag may pumuputok, paputok lang eh. May panahon dati, pag may pumuputok, may kudeta ba?
Mga 19...
Pag-usapan yun.
Well, speaking of shooting, and let's talk about the stars that have started to arrive at the Soler Grand Ballroom in Parañaque for the Metro Manila Film Fest Gabi ng Parangal. The program has just started, and the organizers have this to say: the results have been heatedly deliberated and argued upon. They're confident that whoever wins tonight's Best Picture, Actor, Actresses, and all the other awards are truly deserving of the accolade. Among the experts' hot picks for the awards are the Kingdom's bossing Vic Soto, who wowed audiences with his first serious acting on his MMFF comeback. Piolo Pascual, Sid Lucero, Cedric Juan, and Isaac Calzado, all from the Kingdom, also got good reviews on their acting prowess. Many moviegoers have also been pointing out the well-thought-out scenes and story development of this Media Quest-produced film. In fact, a lot have already been calling for a prequel, certainly to the delight of the cast of The Kingdom.
We want to be, of course, we want the festival to be successful. We want all the films to make it, not just practical commercial success, but also for the producers to get back their budget because syempre may sila tayo kumuha na ganito mag-grand pagka-gather ng mga artista ng mga pelikula. So sana talaga we do this for Philippine cinema.
MMFF organizers still would not reveal, though, which entry tops box office earnings. But according to them, one thing is for sure: the opening day had been record-breaking.
Yung first day gross natin is record-breaking. Yung pong first day gross natin is about 25 to 30% higher than the first day gross noong last year.
Napanood ko na yung The Kingdom kagabi. Humabol ako sa last full showing.
Anong iyong review?
Ang review ko, kailangan nga may prequel. Kasi parang gusto ko pang malaman kung ano yung Pilipinas kung hindi tayo nasakop. Pero sabi ko nga this movie was very brave. First time to see Bossing Vic Soto play a serious role. It was na-interview kasi natin si Vic Soto dito sa seryosong usapan. Tapos sabi niya talagang medyo challenging sa kanya kasi ang daming emotional scenes. So totoo nga, araming scenes na he was forced to, cry, mga ganon. Tapos bukod dyan, pati fighting scenes
That's
meron
not
din.
your typical Vic Soto role.
Oo, pero si Piolo napakagwapo. Gusto ko lang sabihin, hindi pa rin talagang walang katulad si Papa P. Pero ang dami ring talented. Iza Calzado, Sue Ramirez, Sid Lucero, Cedric Juan, jam-packed.
Pinapa-extra ka na.
Jam-packed film. At isa kong advice, kapag nanood kayo, huwag muna kayo umalis kaagad kasi meron pa pagkatapos ng end credits. Kayo, nanood na ba kayo?
Hindi pa.
That's it for the show tonight here on The Big Story. I want to get reactions of the next show that's upcoming. Stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Cheska Litton Calao.
Check. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it kasi dapat dilibre tayo ni Gretchen,
Ni Gretchen,
ng tickets,
oo.
diba?
Bok, sabi niya, sagot kasi na yung tickets.
Alam mo, humabol ako
Pumasok
kasi
ka pa dyan.
gusto ko, bago yung gabi ng parangal, para yung binili kong ticket, madagdag sa sa count.
Tama. Correct,
Pero parang
correct.
hindi pa pala natatapos kahapon. Parang matagal pa, hindi pa na nire-review.
Pati buti sinabi mo, no spoilers, but you said not to stay after the credits. Parang mala Marvel lang, di ba?
Oo.
Yung may end credits.
Ganun ang feels.
Oh,
parang-
happy weekend sa inyong dalawa. Bok, may gusto lang akong sabihin bago na namin ibigay yung sa show namin sa Play-by-Play. Sa'yo ako, Papa P. Alam ko gwapo si Papa P, Bossing Vic. Bok Ed tayo.
Bakit ka natamaan?
Kay Bok Ed ako.
Napakagwapo, tapos yung abs.
Andre, ako bahala sa'yo.
Yung abs lumalabas.
Kay Bok Ed ako.
May pa-abs?
May abs ba kayo?
Wala. But thank you, happy weekend.
Marami kaming abs. Iba lang yung form, iba lang yung...
Correct.
Hindi isa lang, one ab.
Oh.
Meron kaming
Pag
abs.
kinumbay namin ni Bok Ed, kami dalawa
Oo.
abs na yun.
Abs na yun.
Happy weekend,
Happy weekend.
Gretchen. Bok Ed, ingat ha. Thank you. Well, we've got game winners for the Heat, the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Trailblazers on the show, plus results of 5 other NBA games.
And we've got PBA rookie Justin Baltazar talking about learning from the one and only Lakay, Danny Ildefonso.
Oh, I'm sure he learned a lot. I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Cheska Litton Calao.
And here's tonight's Play-by-Play.